Oh, it's a bit chilly this morning, a bit windy, but yeah, it's still lovely. This is the second part of the one I did yesterday about the once you build up the chains of habit, it's very hard to break them. And this one is really about hold on. I'm trying to get a reverse on this. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this one is about man was born free and everywhere he is in chains. And I think what a beautiful, I just love the coastline here, it's so nice. Hopefully you can hear this. There's a bit of a wind today, so hopefully it comes out okay. And there's none so more that man is in chains. I mean, I see this everywhere now. It's just, you look around and people are creating their own chains. You know, they're creating their own problems in the world. You know, it's one of those times in my life when I feel like just by saying something, you know, freedom of speech is sort of being eroded. And just by saying something, you can get yourself into trouble, and that's, you know, it's not the world that I want to live in anyway, you know. So you really have to view this from that point of view. But from my perspective, it's always about trying to going back to habits or going back to values, going back to explaining myself what values I want in my life and how those values can contribute towards not only myself but to the people around me, you know. I mean, that's the ultimate goal of my life is, I suppose, contribution. That's the thing that is going to really take me somewhere beyond what I'm doing, beyond where I am. You get what I mean? And you know, habits are one of those things that when I started out on this journey, it was very difficult to, or values I should say. We've got, I'll just show you where we are now. Our boys have found this other dog, and there's two ladies and they're swimming, and you know, it's such a nice part of the beach. It's absolutely freezing and these two women were in swimming, so it's just one of those things that is in. Now, I was talking about my own values and stuff, and the value systems that I've got. I really had to start questioning those value systems in the beginning when I was starting out in this journey. I thought I had values, but it was the values themselves that our two are being chased away. It was those value systems in the beginning that I really had to start questioning, to start looking at where I was and where my values had got. And I realized that most of the values that I had as an individual had come from places that weren't my choosing. You know, I didn't choose my own values. I didn't, you know, they were either chosen for me by my parents, by my peers, you know, the other parts of my family, and society in general. And the problem is that the people who are delivering those values to you, they probably, you know, don't know where their values came from. You know, they just accept them without questioning. And that to me is, you know, it's dogma. It's part of the whole process of dogma. So, and it's not something that I want to have in my system. You know what I mean? So, one of the whole systems of AA, for instance, you know, I remember trying to, before I even stopped drinking alcohol, I looked into AA as being something that would maybe help me, because, you know, I was in a desperate situation. You know, anybody who's at this stage in their lives where they're seriously considering stopping drinking alcohol, most people are at the end of their tether. They're in a situation which is, their lives are being affected by the behavior, by their own behavior and by their thinking. So that's where I was. I was desperate. Never wanted to consider myself an alcoholic. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I think AA is, or organizations like that, it's not even, I don't mean this to attack AA, I mean it to attack the idea behind AA, right? This is my whole point, is it's not the AA that's at fault, it's the idea of an alcoholic, it's the idea of loss of control, it's the idea of disease. That's what I'm kicking back against, and that's what I don't like. And the whole point of this was, with the idea of alcoholism comes this background of people who continue to drink in what they consider to be a normal fashion because they don't consider themselves to be alcoholics, because the idea of an alcoholic is always somebody who is at the bottom of their own pit, right? And as long as you don't see yourself as that, then you're not going to consider yourself to be an alcoholic, right? And it's when you get to a stage where you're just desperate for something because you've tried moderation before and it hasn't worked, you've tried all these other things and it hasn't worked, because the behavior and the thinking is wrong. You're using alcohol as a tool, as a means to an end. So alcohol is always, it is always a symptom of the problem. It's not the problem itself. And the idea of alcoholism and the idea of a disease, this creates alcohol as the center of the problem, or you as an individual at the center of the problem, and that there's something wrong with you as an individual, right? And that's wrong. It's habitual. It gets to a stage where you've caused maybe so much damage to yourself that you need to get medical treatment, and that's understandable, but it's not medical treatment for the alcohol. It's medical treatment because of the damage that has been caused by the behavior, by the alcohol. But it's at the fundamental root of all this is you've caused damage because of what you've been doing to yourself and the way of looking at things, the way of seeing the world and the way of viewing the world. Do you get what I mean? And there's a fundamental difference in that. And depending on which way you look at this, depending on whether you look at it like you're an alcoholic, or you look at it like this is a habit, this is a habit that I can break, this is a habit that I can turn around and change. So viewing habits, like I said in the last video, from the perspective of either an addiction versus a habit is going to set you down on a different path, because you're starting off from a different original idea, originating idea, I suppose. You're starting off from a different place. Your ideas are going to lead you down a different place. You're starting off with different ideas about what you can do and how you can do it. When you're talking about things like this is an addiction, then you're coming from the perspective of there are certain things that are going to straitjacket my thinking, because my thinking is diseased, my thinking is damaged, right? When you come from the perspective of a habit, this is only a habit, this is part of my behavior, then it means that you can move forward, and it's something that you can change. The whole thing you can change. How can you change something when you say it's a part of you and it's something within you that is a part of your being that you cannot change? So I don't know if I'm making myself clear in this. I have to really it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and there's a lot of people as well that think along the same lines. I mean, that idea of going in there and being an alcoholic, that maybe I was an alcoholic, that led me down the path to sort of going into AA. But just reading that first part of it, that we came to realize that we were powerless over alcohol, and that our lives have become unmanageable. The second part is probably realistic, right? But once you get to that second part, then you ignore the first part. And the first part is saying that you were powerless over alcohol. And you never were. You never were. Like I said, alcohol is the symptom. It's not the problem. You know, the problem, you can count the problems in the thousands, the millions. You know, they're emotional problems, and like I said last time, everything to do with alcohol comes from an emotional point of view. I mean, even celebration and congratulations, when you're congratulating somebody with alcohol, there is a fear attached to it. You try standing there when you're the only one who hasn't got a drink in your hand, an alcoholic drink in your hand, and people are looking at you as if to say, you know, you can't even be bothered to have a bit of champagne in your glass, a little tiny bit of champagne that will do you no harm, you know, in order to congratulate this person. That's the way people are viewing you. So there's a fear with all of it. You know, why do people drink alcohol with their dinner? You know, ask yourself that. People will say to you, because it's an aperitif, which means that it aids digestion. And actually, alcohol fucks up your digestion. It does nothing to aid your digestion, you know. So, you know, I've heard people talking about water, in the sense of don't drink water with your food because the water will interfere with your digestion. And they're the same people who will pop open a cork of a wine bottle and drink a glass of wine with the dinner. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like I've said before, V2, Habits V2, which is here, that's our platform. It's never going to help you to stop drinking alcohol for that specific purpose, right? Because that stopping drinking alcohol is a simple process. I can't help you with that. If you cannot do that, I can help you with everything else. I can help you to cope, right? This is what the first 2 months of our program is all about, is helping you to cope with not drinking anymore. The second 2 months is all about acclimatizing, you know, getting used to being yourself, being a new person, discovering new things about yourself. The third 2 months, so month 5 and 6, is all about trying to integrate your new knowledge and to really try and move on. And then the second 6 months of the program is all about transformation, and it's all about thriving and trying to get to that stage where you really don't give a fuck about alcohol anymore. That no matter what happens in your life, that you're never going to go back to that stage. You know, the shittiest thing could happen in your life. And I remember saying that, I've said this so many times, that I cannot imagine what would have to go wrong in my life that I would take alcohol again. There isn't anything that I could imagine, because I understand only through getting on the other side of this how much damage alcohol did to my life, how much time alcohol took from me, how much energy it took, how much money it took, you know, how many of my personal relationships it ruined, how many personal relationships didn't even happen because of alcohol, because I was stuck in that mindset. How many things in my life didn't happen because of alcohol, because I was stuck in that mindset, stuck with those values. And it's the values that are at the core of this. I was listening to Jordan Peterson this morning, and he was talking about one of the biggest problems that we have in the world nowadays is that since the demise of religion, and Nietzsche talked about this and when he was talking about the death of God, that people's hierarchy of values used to be at the pinnacle of that hierarchy of values was God and religion, and there was a spirituality that was there that kept people. This is what they focused on. This is what their aim was in life. This is what dictated their actions and their thoughts and everything about what they did, who they were as a person. And since God has gone from the litany of man's, I suppose, their values, it's been replaced by man-made stuff. You know, environmentalism. There's certain environmentalists who have turned environmentalism into a religion. I see this all the time. saw it loads in the vegan movement, where vegans had turned their form. They were. It was so religious in their dogmatic views about the way things were, that you couldn't even have a tiny little bit of honey in anything, or that was sacrilege. It was out the window. But I'm saying it's because you've got to. Some of the values that we're looking for in the world, we don't have time, in one single lifetime to create values for ourselves. So we have to find values that are already there. We have to find value in things that have been there for generations. And there's some stuff that you'll find in religious stuff, religious books across the whole spectrum, that are basic lessons in life on how to live your life and how to behave, how to project yourself in life. So listen, it's going off onto a ramble. That's why this is called. Go over to the blog. We're called The Rational Rambler, right? But the blog is habitsv2.com. So www, I'll leave the link down below, habitsv2.com/blog. And as I said, we've got the program here. We've got a lot of different stuff on it, depending on the level that you want to take up. We've got some one-on-one coaching. We've got group coaching sessions. We're just doing a lot of positive good for people who want to have a positive outcome, who are looking for that positive outcome, who want to get away from alcohol and have that, just live a good life for themselves. What is a good life? That's up to you. It's an individual thing, So, give you another view of this before we close. It's just it's just great to be alive at times like this, because the simplicity of what is already there, it's just changing your outlook, changing your appreciation. I will see you again. Take care of yourself. Keep the alcohol out of your mouth. Onwards and upwards. Bye now.